Well, fantastic. And thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, first off, like, it's just really cool to have you on, and I really am excited for our listeners to get to know you and like really what you're about. Before we kind of go into everything, would you be able to give a little bit of a background about who you are and, you're kind of starting to doing what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Anne Derieux. It's a French name. I was born in Versailles in France, and basically started doing ballet when I was very young, around 5, 6, and then moved to Africa. My family moved to Africa for 3 years, and I started ice skating there. And when I came back to France, I was 10 years old. The ice skating range was too far from my parents, so they said, well, you're going to go back to ballet. I was not happy about it, but my parents were, when you start something, you continue. So I was back in the ballet studio at Versailles, and I got completely hooked. A teacher really made me want to do more and thought I had a little bit of talent. So he told my parents. At 13, I auditioned for the Conservatoire National Supérieur de Paris, which is a state school. It's all funded by the government, so it costs nothing to students. And I was accepted among about a couple hundred students. 10 of us were accepted. So it was very selective. And so my parents thought, okay, well, if you got in, it means you have a little bit of talent, so we'll trust that. So for 5 years, I basically studied ballet from 13 to 18. And then I was accepted to Monte Carlo Ballet, which was a new company started by the Princess Caroline of Monte Carlo in memory of her mother, Grace, who died a couple of years earlier. So she died in 1981, and the Monte Carlo Ballet were started in 1985, and I was the first dancer hired for that new company. So it was 1985. I was 18. I was in a company that had no budget issues. Monte Carlo is fully financed by the casinos, and they make a lot of money. So it was a fun time at 18 to make a nice salary. And basically, we toured about 8 months out of the year because Monte Carlo is the equivalent of, I don't know, a little state. Comparing to Seattle, it's probably like Queen Anne size. Anyway, so we toured all over the world, and I did that for 8 years, and I got tired of it because, living off your suitcase is fun for a while. But at 25, I decided I wanted to experience America. So I auditioned. I left France by myself, auditioned for 2 months in various cities in North America, Canada included. And long story short, Pacific Northwest Ballet offered me the contract in 1992 here. So I came to Seattle by myself, didn't know anyone, and arrived in August 92 to dance with PNB. I was a principal dancer there, so the top of the rank, which is, you have to, because otherwise you cannot really get a visa, a working visa. It's at this time it was called a O1 visa. It's a visa for artists of extraordinary abilities. It's a little bit of a joke, but basically it's a visa ensuring that you're not taking the job of an American citizen. So you have to prove you're bringing something else to the country that no American can bring. Yes, that's why I'm saying it's a little bit of a joke. But so that means you have to have some kind of career with some press clips about you, making you unique, kind of. And I got that because I danced quite a lot in Monte Carlo and on tour, so I had reviews from all over the world. And so I got my visa, PNB gave me a contract, and here I was at 26 years old, about 26, in Seattle, and danced a lot with PNB. All the ballets I wanted to do, I did them, most of them. In 2000, actually, it's going to be 20 years, I stopped dancing this June. And I decided, I was 33, and I decided I wanted to do something else. So a trustee the ballet asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I have no idea. Where's the money coming from here to pay my salary as a dancer? And that's the first time I heard fundraising, because it's a word that doesn't translate actually in French. There's not such a thing that fundraising in Europe, because all the country. I mean, we are heavily subsidized by the government, by taxpayers' money. So. So fundraising doesn't really exist. It starts to exist actually now in Europe because they have to do it. But anyway, at that time, it was unknown to me. And I was fascinated by that culture of philanthropy that is very unique to the US, actually. So I went back to school. So I was 33. I was pregnant. And I went back to school to study fundraising management for nonprofit at UW. It's a certificate program. 9 months later, I had a baby and I had a little certificate. And I got a job right away. And it was basically a small nonprofit in Auburn at that time. That was a dance school / company. And that's how I started. And I learned everything by doing it. I went to school, but basically I applied everything I learned in school the day after at work. That's the best school in many ways. I learned on the job. And so I kept doing this, and this is what I've been doing for 20 years now. It's my second career. I completely stopped dancing. Again, my last show was June 2nd, 2000. And I never taught, never choreographed, never coach anybody. I really turned the page, decided I wanted to do something else. So that's what I've been doing, is basically management for nonprofit. I did a few jobs as executive director, so not just doing fundraising, but really managing a small nonprofit, mostly the arts and most recently education. But mostly I managed small artistic nonprofit organizations, which gave me a certain edge because as a former dancer, former artist, I could really speak the language of the artist, but also I've always been interested in the business aspect of a nonprofit. So that's really what I really enjoyed in my new path. It was really managing a small business, looking at finance, building budgets. For some reason, I love it. Never really went to school for that, but really enjoyed it. And that's what I've been doing for 20 years now. And I ended up at Cornish. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Wow.
I hope it was not too long.
Right. It's funny. I was, talking to Nick and saying I was really excited to get you on, and I've known you for a couple years or so now, and I was just kind of like, this person's amazing. I can't wait to have her on. And then there's so many things that I didn't even know just from you telling me about that with ice skating in Africa and your business management and everything like that too. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, did I mention that she's a superhuman that we're getting on this podcast right now? That is exactly what's going on. That's fantastic.
It's in the DNA of artists to learn new things, to problem solve, to just move forward, keep moving forward and learning as you go and solving problems. We're creative and we're actually like challenges in many ways because we're used to it. And so we always keep going, whatever it takes. You learn on the spot, you go back to school, you learn from others, but you just keep going. That's kind of this resilience. Yeah.